proceed? Good evening to everyone present and honorable and learned members of the panel. And the patient audience present. The topic of my presentation, of my paper rather, is weaponization of outer space, a legal political interface. I shall be beginning with a brief, very short clip upon this topic, which will basically highlight certain aspects of this entire thing.
There's a Christian prayer called the Our Father, which has the words, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven." We view the sky as the connection to that principle of eternity, that the idea of something transcendent in our lives. To see the skies, the universe itself, threatened with the prospect of nuclear warfare in the heavens. It is psychologically challenging and spiritually punishing. And it seems as though the projection of fear, of the instrumentalities of violence into outer space is a threat to all of the aspirations which all of us have, not only in this country, but on the planet.
As was elucidated or highlighted in the video, in the light of the issues that are faced with us today, in the present times, the paper discusses the nature, scope, and implications of weaponization of outer space in the light of recent developments. The paper also examines the failures and inadequacies of the present-day legal regime and unfortunate absence of a strong global opinion against such ventures. I shall be concluding this presentation with a short comment on the possible future scenario and certain attempts that need to be and should be made. First of all, proceeding further, it is very important to understand as to what kind of law exists in the international scenario, and the major prominent law that there is as of now is the Outer Space Treaty, that is of the year 1967. The first major step in the regard of developing a concrete and proper effective law was taken by the United Nations, and the main objective at that time was developing an international opinion against the use of space for military purposes. The treaty, that is the Outer Space Treaty, an effort made under these developments, however, have witnessed only a marginal success. And I shall be talking about this in the light of various developments that took place when this treaty was enacted and thereafter. One of the major drawbacks is with regard to the fact that it does not provide for an international control machinery to look after the larger interests of the international community. It does also not provide a compulsory jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice for the purpose of settlement of disputes. In addition to the previous two, another drawback is that the boundary dispute between space and outer space has also not been discussed under this treaty. This treaty has to be seen with the developments that took place in the recent past, and the failures hence can be very much evident. With the dawn of the 20th century, both the USSR and the USA were working on certain programs that sought to develop an arsenal of sophisticated weaponry that would be capable of being used as anti-satellite missiles or anti-satellite weapons. The USSR achieved its target in the form of Istanbul Sputnik, that basically means the destroyer of satellites, and the United States hence followed suit with its own Watt ASM-135 AS-18 missile. However, looking at the international scenario and prevailing conditions, both these nations did go ahead and abandon these projects. The debate on the issue of weapons was thereafter witnessed a considerable lull for quite a period of time. However, in 2006, this area was rekindled with the USA going around in the year 2006, stepping forward and declaring their national space policy, which said that the USA asserted for itself a right to defend its national interests in space, to exclude any state that the United States of America views as an immediate or potential threat, and can also engage in intelligence gathering to develop nuclear-powered space vehicles, and thereby created an implied right to create a strong military presence in the outer space. In the very next year, that was the year 2007, China went on to become the third nation to possess such power and technology. It was on 11th July 2007 that China went ahead and shot down one of its aging satellites, Fengdian 1C. Again, as a result of this, in 2008, the USA did the same and shot down its own satellite named USA 193. This was done when, and the reason given was that the satellite was coming back into the atmosphere and was making an uncontrolled entry. The USA did go ahead, however, and promise that the data and records achieved later on would not be retained and used for military purposes. However, the authenticacy of the same is highly doubtful. Our future may itself be at risk, taking into account the repercussions of outer space warfare. What is even more disturbing is the fact that with the onset of a new political order and an advent of a multipolar world, the new power centers are emerging and developing their own technologies to counter these threats, both existing and future threats possible. For example, I would like to highlight that in 2010, the Director General of India's DRDO said that India plans to develop a capacity to destroy satellites in low Earth and polar orbits as a part of its broader ballistic missile defense program that will reach maturity in the year 2014. Japan also went ahead and passed a similar resolution in the form of legislation. Before concluding, however, I would briefly like to suggest a few points that may help in dissolving this particular problem at hand. First being that suitable amendments may be made to the Outer Space Treaty, which has been described as the Magna Carta of space, or it may be replaced by an altogether new one. A verifiable limited test ban for anti-satellite weapons may also be put into place, as has been suggested by certain scholars. As for this recommendation, a ban may be imposed upon testing ASAT weapons above a particular altitude. The primary aim of such a restriction, as envisaged, is the protection of outer space assets from debris caused due to the destruction of particles placed in orbit. The proposed I shall conclude very quickly. So it may be summed up that the future of mankind depends heavily upon the actions and decisions taken by the present-day governments. A consensus and strong global opinion against such indiscriminate arms race has to be achieved in the near future. If it is not done, I believe that the quotation, that the views of Albert Einstein, which I will be quoting right now, will hold true. Albert Einstein goes on and says, and I quote, "I know not what weapons of World War III would be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones," unquote. This will certainly hold true. Sadly, at the pace at which things seem to be progressing, weaponization of outer space does not seem to be a mere fiction, but a stark reality. Thank you.
This subject is very wide to which become now, but in the beginning when space power was being drafted, India and V.K. Krishnaman and others spoke very often in the United Nations deliberations, General Assembly, that space should be kept for peaceful purposes. But the question was, how do you define peaceful purpose? But the intent was not to weaponize it. It's very unfortunate part in history that this has happened in the last 10 to 15 years. It didn't happen in the beginning. And leading thinkers in the world are right now concerned, and they're looking towards you young people from India to press this point, to harmonize activities for international cooperation and maintain peace in our space world. It's very important, as Einstein has said, and anybody would think of it, that future cannot be safe if we have the weaponized. Thank you very much, my